In this video, we will discuss regarding malicious prosecution. So, first, we will discuss regarding the meaning and definition of malicious prosecution. It is an accepted legal right of every person to move the law courts for vindicating his rights, but at the same time, there is also the corresponding legal duty of every person not to harass other by legal proceeding improperly instituted against him. Whenever the law is set in motion, not for the purposes of vindicating grievances, but for malicious purposes in order to harass others, an action will be maintainable against the person responsible for setting the legal proceedings. Such legal proceedings may be civil or criminal. So, malicious prosecution may be defined as the institution against an innocent person unsuccessful proceeding without reasonable and probable cause and in a malicious spirit, that is, from an indirect and improper motive and not in furtherance of justice and causing damage to the plaintiff in person or in pocket or in reputation. Malicious prosecution as well as any other abuse of legal process which injures the reputation of the party is actionable in tort. So now we'll discuss the essential conditions for liability in action for malicious prosecution. Required conditions are the following. One is prosecution by the defendant, and the second one, termination of proceedings in plaintiff's favor, or the third one, prosecution without reasonable and probable cause, and the fourth one, having malicious intention. So these are the very four essential conditions for liability in action for malicious prosecution. So prosecution by the defendant, termination of proceedings in plaintiff's favor, prosecution should have been started without any reasonable and probable cause, instituted with a malicious intention, not with mere intention of carrying the law into effect, but with an intention which was wrongful in point of fact. And in regarding the next one, that is damage, so the plaintiff should have suffered damage when the proceedings are other than criminal proceedings. So, as to the first one, it is necessary that the defendant should be the person to set the law in motion against the plaintiff by signing the charge and expressing his willingness to attend the court and give evidence. It is not necessary that the defendant should himself conduct the proceedings. Regarding the second one, no action for malicious prosecution lies until the proceeding has terminated in favor of the person complaining of it. And third one, the prosecution was instituted with malicious intention. It is, in its legal sense, means which may be presumed from the doing of a wrongful act intentionally without just cause or excuse or for want of reasonable and probable cause. And the fourth one requires that the plaintiff has sufficient or suffered damage as a result thereof. The plaintiff must prove that he has suffered harm, damage in person or in reputation or in pocket. So, regarding that, the Calcutta High Court in the leading case CM Agarwal versus Halar Salt and Chemical Works in 1977 expressed that in a suit for malicious prosecution, the plaintiff can claim damage on the following counts. One is damage to the person, damage to his reputation, or damage to his property or pocket. So, these are the findings held by the Calcutta High Court in the leading case CM Agarwal versus Halar Salt and Chemical Works in 1977. So now we'll discuss the very distinction between false imprisonment and malicious prosecution. So regarding that, the first one is wrongful restraining and wrongfully setting the criminal law in motion. So, false imprisonment is wrongfully restraining the personal liberty of the plaintiff, while malicious prosecution is wrongfully setting the criminal law in motion against him. And the second one, that is, act of the defendant and the act of the court. So, in false imprisonment, it is that act of the defendant itself or its agents which has caused the injury to the plaintiff. But in malicious prosecution, it is the act of the court, although at the instance of the defendant, which has caused the injury complaint of to the plaintiff. And the third one, it is regarding private, individual, and judicial sanction. In false imprisonment, the personal liberty of the plaintiff is wrongfully restrained by the private individual, either personally or by setting a ministerial officer in motion, while in malicious prosecution, the arrest is secured under judicial sanction. The question whether a person is liable for imprisonment or in malicious prosecution often turns upon the question whether the defendant has set a ministerial or judicial officer in motion. And regarding the fourth one, it is regarding burden of proof on the defendant and the burden of proof on the plaintiff. So, in false imprisonment, the onus lies on the defendant to plead and prove affirmatively the cause of justification, whereas in action of for malicious prosecution, the plaintiff must allege and prove affirmatively its non-existence. And the fifth one, that is regarding imprisonment, is a tort, and under malicious persecution it becomes a tort. So imprisonment is a tort per se. Malicious persecution is not a tort, while persecution is not itself a tort but becomes a tort when it is malicious and without reasonable and probable cause. The principle behind this distinction is that interference with man's personal liberty is prima facie wrongful and has therefore to be justified, but everyone is prima facie entitled to set the criminal law in motion, whereas in action for malicious prosecution, the plaintiff has to allege and prove affirmatively the non existence of reasonable and probable cause. And now we'll go to the sixth one, that is, malice is not essential, but under malicious prosecution it is essential. So, malice is an essential ingredient in action for making prosecution, but in an action for false imprisonment, it is not necessary for the plaintiff to prove that the defendant was actuated by malice. And the seventh one, that is regarding the honest and inevitable mistake. So, in an action for malicious prosecution, two things are required to be proved. For example, both malice and the absence of any reasonable or probable cause for the proceeding complained of. But in an action for false imprisonment, liability is created in general even by honest and inevitable mistake, and it is no defense, but the defendant had no malice but a bona fide mistake. And the last distinction, that is regarding absence of reasonable and probable cause and damage. So, in damage is the gist of the action for malicious prosecution, in which it has to be specifically proved that the plaintiff has suffered in person or in reputation or in pocket, but not so in an action of false imprisonment. However, inconvenience and loss of reputation caused to the plaintiff and the expenses incurred to regain freedom from false imprisonment may be taken into consideration in awarding damages. So, in a leading case in 1955, that is China Mithus case, the learned judges imprisonment expressed that false imprisonment is the invasion of the interest in freedom for unlawful confinement, while a malicious prosecution, the unlawful use of legal procedure to bring about a legal confinement if the imprisonment is under legal process, but the action has been carried on maliciously and without probable cause, it is malicious prosecution, if it has been extrajudicial without legal process, then it is false imprisonment. It will differ on the facts of each case whether the arrest by a police officer was caused in a ministerial capacity and in compliance with the complainant's request or in the exercise of his own power. If the former is the case, the remedy is the malicious prosecution. If the latter is the case, the remedy is for the false imprisonment. So, this is all about malicious prosecution and the very distinction between false imprisonment and malicious prosecution.